The story begins with a prison called Shawshank Redemption. It is the most secure prison in the world. There are thousands of inmates here, but until today, no prisoner has ever escaped from this jail because the security of this prison is extremely strict. There are also prisoners here who have spent their entire lives in this very prison, but the thought of escaping from this jail never even crossed their minds, because the punishment for anyone who tries to escape from this prison is straight death. Now the scene cuts, and we are shown a courtroom where a man named Andy is standing. Andy is a very big banker of a major American bank. The judge sentences him to life imprisonment for the murder of his wife and her lover. But Andy says that I did not commit these murders. However, Andy had no proof to prove himself innocent. Because of this, the court judge sends Andy to the world's most secure prison, Shawshank Redemption, for life imprisonment. Along with Andy, there are many other prisoners, and when these prisoners are brought inside the jail, the rest of the inmates already inside start betting among themselves about which of these new incoming prisoners will cry tonight, and for this, they place a bet of 1 box of cigarettes. They pick 1 prisoner each from the new arrivals standing in line outside. Then a prisoner named Red bets on Andy because he feels Andy looks very innocent and comes from a very rich family who has never faced hardship. So he thinks Andy will be the first to cry tonight. After this, all the prisoners are brought inside the jail in a line, and every single prisoner is locked in his cell. After some time, night falls, and then the old prisoners start shouting at the new arrivals so that one of them gets scared and starts crying, and exactly that happens. One of the new prisoners starts sobbing loudly and says, "I want to go home." Then the guards come and tell him to stop crying, but when the man does not stop crying, the guards drag him out of the cell and beat him so badly that he passes out. On the other hand, Red loses the bet he had placed on Andy, and Red realizes that Andy is very strong because despite all that intimidation, he did not make a single sound. That is why the next day Red gives his friend a box of cigarettes, because Red had lost the bet on Andy. Then we see Andy sitting alone quietly having breakfast. Then Andy meets the oldest prisoner in the jail, Brooks. Brooks is about to complete almost 50 years in this prison. Andy intelligently tries to learn all the small and big rules of this prison and about every prisoner from Brooks. Then Brooks tells Andy every secret of the prison and tells him that if you ever need anything from outside, go to the prisoner named Red. As soon as he hears this, Andy does not wait and goes straight to Red and says, "I heard you can get anything from outside brought inside." Then Red says, "Yes, I can get it, but only things that cannot be used to escape from here or to kill someone." Andy tells Red, "I need a hammer, that is, a small rock hammer." As soon as he hears the word hammer, Red says, "Why exactly do you need a hammer? You're not planning to hit someone with it, are you?" Then Andy says, "No, I am not going to hit anyone. I have no enemies here." Hearing this, Red says, "You don't have enemies here yet, but very soon some people are going to become your enemies." He points towards some men and warns Andy to stay away from them because they have bad intentions toward you. The next day, on Andy's request, Red arranges the hammer for him, and when he sees the hammer, Red starts laughing because the hammer is extremely small in size, and Red thinks to himself that with this hammer, it would take 600 years to dig a tunnel in the prison. After that, Red gets the hammer delivered to Andy's cell through Brooks. Days pass like this, and one day when Andy is working in the laundry, the same 3 men who had their eyes on Andy grab him. Andy tries to free himself from them, but he cannot control 3 men alone. So these 3 first beat Andy badly and then assault him. This continues in the same way. They always catch Andy and beat him and assault him. 2 years pass like this, and an announcement is made that some men are needed for roof repair work. A team of prisoners is formed for the roof job, which includes both Red and Andy. They all get to work, and the responsibility of watching them on the roof belongs to a very strict security guard named Hadley. Hadley is an extremely strict man who beats prisoners brutally for the slightest mistake. While all the prisoners are working on the roof, Hadley is a bit upset and tells his colleagues, "My brother recently passed away, and he had some money in his account. Now there is no one in this world for my brother except me, so I have the right to his money." But the problem is that when I transfer that money to my account, the government will take almost all of it as tax. While Hadley is talking to his colleagues, Andy also hears everything. Andy, being a big banker, knew exactly how to get this money out without paying tax to the government. After this, without thinking, Andy goes to Hadley and says, "Do you trust your wife?" As soon as he hears this, Hadley gets angry and grabs Andy and takes him to the edge of the roof. But before throwing him down, Andy tells him, "If you trust your wife that she will never betray you, you can easily transfer your brother's money to your wife's account, and that too without any tax, because there is a government rule that a person can gift his wife up to a certain amount in his lifetime, and no tax is charged on that gift money." And Andy also says, "If you hire a lawyer from outside, he will charge you a lot of money, but I can do this work for you for free." Then Hadley asks, "What do you want in return?" Smiling, Andy says, "I don't want anything. Just when your work is done, buy beer for all my friends." And the next day, all the prisoners are sitting on the roof, enjoying beer. That means Andy had done Hadley's work, but Andy himself does not drink beer. He sits in a corner and feels happy watching everyone drink beer. Andy's friends are also very happy with him, because drinking beer inside prison was almost impossible. But because of Andy, their wish was fulfilled. Then time passes like this, and the friendship between Andy and Red deepens. A few days later, a movie is shown to all the prisoners in the jail, and everyone is watching Rita Hayworth's film. Then Andy comes to Red and says, "I need a big poster of Rita Hayworth." Andy asks Red for the poster because Red was the only person in the whole prison who could get anything from outside. After this, Andy steps outside, but as soon as he comes out, the same 3 men who used to assault Andy are standing there. They tell Andy, "Come with us." But this time, Andy refuses. When Andy refuses, they grab him and try to force him, but Andy also fights back. But there are 3 of them. That is why they beat Andy very badly. But today, they are unable to do anything else to Andy. However, they beat Andy so much that Andy has to go to the hospital for a month, and the man who hit Andy is put in solitary confinement for a week. A week later, when that man returns to his cell, the same officer is there for whom Andy had saved the tax money, and someone had told this officer that this man beat Andy so badly that the poor guy had to stay in the hospital for a month. Now this officer beats that man so brutally that he becomes paralyzed forever. A month later, when Andy returns from the hospital to his cell, he finds a big Rita Hayworth poster in his cell, which is actually a welcome gift from Red. Days pass like this, and one day the prison warden comes to Andy's cell with security guards and orders a search of his cell. After the cell check, when the warden finds nothing, his eyes fall on the poster hanging on the wall. The warden says, "Normally, I don't allow posters in cells, but you can keep this one." Actually, the search was just an excuse. The officer had told the warden how Andy saved him tax money. That is why the warden wanted to meet Andy for his own benefit. Andy has a Bible in his hand, which the warden takes and leaves with it. But after walking a little distance, he returns. And while returning, Andy's Bible says, "Salvation lies within." The next day, the warden calls Andy to his office and says, "An intelligent man like you should not be behind bars." Therefore, the warden makes Andy the assistant librarian. In the library, there is an old man named Brooks who has been handling the library for many years. Then, the same officer for whom Andy saved money brings another officer to Andy. Actually, he had an income tax issue, which Andy fills in a few minutes. Because of this, Andy becomes famous throughout the prison. As the years pass, Andy's workload keeps increasing. Because of this, Andy needs an assistant, and he makes his best friend Red his assistant. One day in the library, Brooks puts a knife to a prisoner's throat and threatens to kill him without any reason. Actually, the government has pardoned his sentence, but he does not want to leave this prison. He has completed a full 50 years in this prison today. His entire life has passed in this very prison, and he has completely forgotten what the outside world is like. This prison world has become his real world, and he thinks that if he kills someone, his sentence will be extended and he will be kept in this same prison. On Andy's persuasion, Brooks releases the man whose throat he had the knife on. Now, unwillingly, when Brooks comes out after being released from prison, the outside world feels very strange to him. In 50 years, the pace of the outside world has increased a lot. Where once only one car was seen on the road, now the roads are crowded with vehicles. A few days later, he starts working in a supermarket, but he does not feel like living in the outside world at all. Keeps remembering prison again and again, and wants to come back to prison. That is why sometimes he thinks of committing a crime, so that he can go back to this prison. But at this age, Brooks does not want to commit any crime, and he cannot survive in this crowded, fast-paced life, and he takes his own life. Before dying, he writes a letter with the names of his prison friends, which makes everyone very emotional when they read. Meanwhile, we are shown the prison where the warden starts a new program. In this program, the prison inmates will be taken outside to work so that they learn how money is earned through hard work. And the prisoners also agree to this work because they all want to breathe the outside air. And in this way, the warden gets work done from these prisoners. But through this project, the warden gets many contracts because prison labor is very cheap. And the local outside construction labor teams get no work anywhere because the warden gets the work done by his prisoners at half price. And the warden does this at half price because the prisoners were not labor for whom the warden had to pay daily wages. That is why the warden starts earning a lot of money by getting free work done from the prisoners. And this money of his is black money. But being a banker, Andy converts all the warden's black money into white. Actually, Andy deposits all this money in the name of a man who does not exist in this world and transfers all the money to his account so that even if the police ever finds out, the police will be looking for a man who was never born in this world. Now a new prisoner arrives in the jail whose name is Tommy. Tommy is very young, and at this young age he has already been to many prisons. Tommy has a very friendly nature. That is why he quickly makes friends with many prisoners in the jail. One day at the dining table, Tommy tells everyone, "I have been stealing for many years. That is why I have been to many prisons here, and this time too, I have come to this prison because of theft." Hearing Tommy's words, Andy tells him, "If you keep getting caught again and again after stealing, it means this work does not suit you, so you should stop stealing." Tommy finds Andy's words absolutely right. That is why Tommy starts getting information about Andy from Red. Tommy says to Red, "Andy is a very intelligent and decent man. Why is he in jail?" Red tells him that Andy was a very big banker, but he killed his wife and her lover. That is why he got life imprisonment. Hearing this, Tommy falls into thought, as if he remembered something. After that, he calls Andy. Now Andy and Red are in front of Tommy. Tommy tells both of them that 4 years ago I went to a prison, where I met a prisoner, and that prisoner told me that one night he went to a house to steal. During the theft, the owner of the house woke up. Now, out of fear of getting caught, he killed the owner of that house and his wife. Later, he came to know that both of them were not husband and wife, but lovers. And that woman was the wife of a very big banker. Sometime later, when I read the news in the newspaper, I came to know that when the police investigated these two murders, the police suspected that the banker had killed both of them. That is why the banker was arrested on charges of murdering his wife and his wife's lover. Here, we learn that Andy was innocent. After knowing all this, Andy goes to the warden and tells him everything. But the warden deliberately does not believe his words because Andy is the person who converts his black money into white and knows all the warden's secrets. That is why, if Andy leaves from here, the warden will neither be able to earn more money, nor perhaps the secret of his black money will be revealed. That is why he tells Andy that this is a false story. I hear such stories every day. Andy promises the warden that even if I am released, I will keep your secret. But the warden does not listen to any of Andy's words. Seeing this, Andy gets very angry that I helped this man so much, but even though I am innocent today, he is not letting me go out. That is why Andy shouts at the warden. Then the warden puts Andy in solitary confinement for 1 month, and after that, he goes straight to Tommy, and the warden asks Tommy, "Are all the things you told Andy true?" Tommy says yes, it is absolutely true. After this, he says to Tommy, "If you are called to court, can you give testimony of this in court?" Then Tommy says, "Yes, I am ready for it." As soon as he hears this, the warden signals the guard above, and that guard riddles Tommy with bullets. After this, the warden goes to Andy and tells him that Tommy tried to escape, so he was shot. But Andy understands why Tommy was killed, and Andy thinks to himself that the warden is a very disgusting person. Andy tells the warden that from today, I will never do your work. Then the warden says, you will have to do my work. Otherwise, I will make this prison hell for you. And while leaving, the warden tells the security guard to keep him in solitary for another month. Solitary confinement was a very terrifying place where the prisoner had to stay in complete darkness for a full month. Now, Andy had already spent 1 month in this solitary, but now he has to spend another month in the same dark small room. The news spreads throughout the prison that Andy is serving a sentence for a crime that he never even committed. All the prisoners inside the jail feel very sorry for Andy. Now, after spending a full 2 months in solitary, when Andy comes out, Red comes to him. Andy asks Red, will you ever be able to get out of this prison? Red says yes, but only when I have become very old and my brain stops working. Andy says, after getting out of here, I will go to Mexico. There is a very beautiful place on the seashore in Mexico. It is said that a person loses himself there. I will open a restaurant there. I will repair boats on the seashore, and there I will need a handyman who can bring stuff from outside for me. Actually, he was hinting at Red. Hearing this, Red says, hope is a dangerous thing. It can drive a man insane. You have to come back to the world of truth. Mexico is very far from here. Saying this, Red starts leaving. But before leaving, Andy tells Red, promise me that if you ever get released from here, you will do one job for me. Red says yes, I will definitely do it. Then Andy gives Red an address and says, whenever you get out of here, go to the place where there is a beautiful tree in the middle of a big field. I propose to my wife under that very tree. He tells Red, under that tree inside a wall, you will find a black-colored stone under which I have hidden a box, and whenever you get released, go there and see what is in that box. Saying this, Andy leaves from there and goes straight to the warden. He completes the warden's work and keeps all the documents in a special safe. After keeping the documents, the warden gives Andy his clothes. He tells Andy, get my clothes pressed and polish my shoes until they shine like glass. After which, Andy returns to his cell. Meanwhile, Red is very upset tonight because he is afraid that Andy might kill himself. In this way, the night passes and morning comes. As soon as morning comes, the doors of all the prisoners' cells open and all the prisoners come out. But Andy does not come out of his cell. This was the first time in the last 20 years that a prisoner had not come out of his cell in the morning. Then Red's eyes also go toward Andy's cell, and Red's worry keeps increasing that maybe Andy has killed himself. Then a guard walks toward Andy's cell very angrily, but when he reaches there and looks, his eyes remain wide open, because there was no one inside the cell, and Andy had already escaped from there. Now we see the warden who takes out his shoes to wear them, but in that box, there are not his shoes, but Andy's old shoes. And right then, sirens start blaring throughout the prison, and this siren means that a prisoner has escaped. The warden quickly goes to Andy's cell and sees that Andy is not there. After this, he tells the security guard, go and bring Red, because he was always with Andy. Here, Red is also called. The warden asks Red, where is this Andy? Red says, how would I know? This makes the warden very angry. He says, was he a ghost that he disappeared overnight? In anger, the warden picks up the stones lying there and starts hitting the guards, and Red with them, and he also throws one stone at the poster hanging on the wall. But the stone does not fall down after hitting, but goes right through the poster, and when the warden puts his hand inside, he sees that Andy had made a very big tunnel there, which shocks everyone, because that wall was very strong. Making a tunnel in that wall without a machine was almost impossible, but Andy had made the impossible possible and escaped from there. After this, all the guards go to the place from where Andy had come out. There they find Andy's old clothes and the same small hammer that Andy had ordered from Red 20 years ago. This was the same hammer with which Andy had been digging a tunnel in his cell wall for the last 20 years. For 20 years, Andy had done this work with such precision that no one even got a hint, and whatever soil came out of the wall, he used to keep it in his pocket and scatter it on the ground. The last time Andy had worked for the warden, he had kept all the documents of the warden's black money with himself, and the Bible that he cleverly kept in the warden's safe in front of his eyes, and Andy made the warden believe that these were not the Bible, but his documents. And the clothes that the warden had given him to press, Andy first wore the warden's clothes, and then wore his old clothes over them. And the shoes that the warden had given him to polish like glass, Andy wore them and left. At night, as soon as all the lights were turned off, Andy came out through the tunnel he had made in his cell. After that, he broke a sewer pipe and crawled through that thin sewer pipe and escaped from the prison from which no one had ever escaped before. However, the sewer pipe through which Andy crawled out was almost 2 kilometers long. The next morning, Andy goes to the bank where all the warden's black money is kept. This money is in the name of a man who does not exist in this world. Andy himself had created this entire document game, and the signature of the owner of that account in the bank, Andy used to do from jail. That is why Andy has no difficulty in withdrawing all the warden's money. Andy has all the documents in the name of that man. That is why Andy goes to the banks and withdraws all the money, and that money amounts to $370,000, meaning Andy not only became free, but also became rich. And here we learn that from the day Andy entered that prison, he had been planning all this. The warden had treated Andy very badly in prison and had also killed Tommy. That is why he gives the evidence of the warden's black money to the media. The next morning, this news is printed in the newspaper, and when the warden opens the safe, he finds not his documents, but the Bible. On the first page of the Bible, Andy had written, "You were right, salvation lies within." And when the warden turns the page, he sees that there is a hammer-shaped mark. Actually, Andy had cut the pages of the Bible in the shape of a hammer and made a mold, in which he used to hide his hammer. And 20 years ago, when the warden had first gone to Andy's cell and taken the Bible from his hand and returned it, even at that time the hammer was inside that very Bible. Seeing this, the warden gets a huge shock. On the other hand, the news of the warden's black money has spread throughout the city. That is why reporters and police are coming outside the prison to arrest the warden, and before the police can arrest him, the warden shoots himself. Some time passes, and Andy's friend Red's sentence is also pardoned, and the government also gets him a job. But Red does not feel like living in the outside world at all, because he had spent 40 years of his life in prison. Red also lives in the same room in which Brooks used to live, and Red also wants to take his own life. But then he remembers that he had promised Andy. After this, he sets off in the car for that place, and he goes to the big grassy field where there is a very big tree. There is also a stone wall. There is a black-colored stone on that wall, and when he lifts that stone, there is a box underneath it. Inside that box, there is some money and a letter. This letter is from Andy. In that letter, it is written that Andy is waiting for Red at the same place that Andy had told Red about in prison. Further ahead, Andy had written that hope is a good thing. After this, Red reaches that place, and when he goes to the seashore, he sees that Andy is sitting in a boat, repairing his boat. This place, all this, is the same dream that Andy had shared with Red in prison, and Red had said that hope is not good. After this, both of them hug each other, and with this, the story ends. That's it for today. Hope you enjoyed. Like the video, subscribe to Cinema Recap, hit the bell icon, and let me know your thoughts on the movie in the comments section.